Hey y'all, it's Riot. Welcome to week 25 of Weekly Hyperfixations. Can't believe that it's already been 25 weeks. That's almost half a year. Next week, I believe, is half a year for this, which is crazy to me. So thanks to y'all for being on this ride with me. You know what I mean? Um, so this is a little more all over the place of a week, which, well, honestly, it's a little less all over the place than last week's was. Last week's, even the pyramid was kind of all over the place. But this time the pyramid is honed in. You know what I mean? Uh but let's get started. Um so a couple things. This week has been the week of the 26th. Tomorrow being our usual upload date, so the 27th. This week and continuing into the next week, across the majority of the country here in the United States, they're all experiencing a massive heat wave. Lo and behold, in the Pacific Northwest, it is not a massive heat wave. In fact, it's warmer than usual here, but it's not dire. In fact, the South is experiencing, the South and the entire East Coast seem to be bearing the brunt of this heat wave. So as a reminder that I gave, it might have been last week, it may have been the week prior. Let me check real quick. Where in the world? Wow, was it longer ago? Question mark. Oh man. I don't remember when it was, because I didn't write it down in my notes, but I know I talked about it. A lot of, especially southern states, were experiencing a level of humidity that makes it dangerous to drink cold water outdoors, because there's so much humidity that your body can't cool itself down. So trying to do so through external forces can be dangerous and can accelerate heat stroke. And as long as this heat wave continues going across the country, I recommend to still follow those procedures of not drinking refrigerated water outdoors, as it can fast track you to heat stroke and other related things. So that's going on all across the country. In New York, a little bit ago, there was a Stray Kids concert that had to get canceled about halfway through it, because it was over 100 degrees there and people were literally passing out and experiencing heat stroke. So keep that in mind. This next week and the weeks to follow. Let's see. Some of these, I'll touch on the smaller things that I have on the list. David Cornsweat is just continuing to be quite the hallmark of the Superman lifestyle. And I mean genuinely. Someone tweeted a picture of the inside of a theater, and, in one of the hallways where the big marquee boards are with all the posters, the one that was displaying Superman on it was covered up by a Fantastic Four physical display in front of it. And someone jokingly was like, "Aw, man, they stole his spotlight or whatever." And David Cornsweat was basically just always happy to step aside to let others share in the limelight. And I was like, yeah, man. So David Cornsweat is just really nailing the whole Superman thing. And I'm very excited. I will be seeing Superman and Fantastic Four when they come out. Let's see. I have not seen it yet, personally. I have seen some of the scenes and some of the music, but K-pop Demon Hunters is really popping off to the point in which people are joking that this movie is giving Disney a run for their money, in terms of competition. And I honestly agree, because they chose the team that put out K-pop Demon Hunters chose the exact thing that would get the most audience. And it's really entertaining to me, because Disney did have Turning Red and had a K-pop group in Turning Red, but then they didn't really do anything with it past that, which really feels like, and has felt like, before this movie was before K-pop Demon Hunters was even announced, it really felt like they had missed the mark with Turning Red's boy group, and they could have had so much more audience if they had done more with that specific group, and then they didn't. And now, you know, however long later, a couple years, I think, along comes K-pop Demon Hunters, and it does exceedingly well. And like, I cannot open any social media app without seeing at least one thing. I've seen fan art, I've seen animations, I've seen cosplays, like, you name it. Like, I have seen some content creator putting out something of it, or a meme account using it, or anything like that. And you simply didn't really see any of that kind of colloquial level hype with Turning Red. So, also, Turning Red wasn't targeted towards the K-pop audience, whereas K-pop Demon Hunters literally, factually, by name is. So there's also that. Oh, I know we had a long talk about AI last week. Don't worry. This is but a brief mention, nowhere near as long as last week. Thank you again for those of you who sat through last week's episode for putting up with that. It was about 20 minutes of that episode. Thank you for trucking through that with me again. But all I have to say on this one is Mr. Beast decided that he was going to put out an AI YouTube thumbnail generator that costs an $80 per month subscription to use. And he's probably going to get a lot of lawsuits, because in his promotional video for it, he put other YouTuber logos such as Jacksepticeye's, and Jacksepticeye is very anti-AI. So he's going to be hearing from some lawyers, I assume. But also, even aside from the harsh downsides of using AI, it's also just discouraging to see, because it means that YouTube will just turn into slop after slop after slop. And I don't appreciate that. If I wanted slop, I would get cable television, thank you. And even that would be better slop than this. So that's my 2 cents on that. We're done talking about AI for the rest of the episode. Thank you. Now we're gonna get a little bit New York and media focused, okay? Interestingly, and I'm not a big fan of this content, but Tiny Chef, which had an official show on Nickelodeon, was canceled recently, and the creator made an animation of the Tiny Chef getting the phone call telling him that his show is canceled. And it's really emotional, and the internet, you know, is having a little bit of an uproar about it. And, you know, usually when something is canceled, it's not performing well, or it's not making them enough money, anything like that. This show garnered Nickelodeon 2 Emmy Awards, and then they canceled it. So you can imagine, the more people find out about the situation, the more uproar it's causing on the internet. Next up, this is our token theater thing this week. Actually, there's 2 token theater things. One of them I didn't write on here. Mainly because I haven't listened to the previous thing, but, hold on. Something like that. Okay. I love remembering something that I didn't write down in my notes, but definitely wanted to mention, and then it just slips my mind completely. I love when that happens. Okay, so, this is a theater thing. You know, you may be familiar with the name Rachel Ziegler. She was Snow White in the live-action Snow White. She got a lot of backlash because she is openly pro-Palestine, whereas her co-star Gal Gadot was very pro-Israel. Disgusting. But she recently got backlash during a performance for singing a number on a balcony, whereas the people in the building who had to pay for tickets had to watch it on a monitor. Hey, not her decision. Literally her director's decision. She had nothing to do with that decision. Why are you giving the actor backlash when they're not the person making that decision? That should be common sense. The actors don't make the decisions. The director does. That's how it works. Anyway, you can tell I'm a little pissy about that because God forbid the common public understand that actors are not in charge of themselves. So, our next thing, I'm putting off talking about the thing I've been like really fixated on this week because it also takes over the whole pyramid. So I'm kind of delaying that. And I will say, well, I'll say it when I get to that section. The guy that wrote the musical epic, I can only remember that his last name is Harans, and I can't remember any of his other, I can't remember his name at all. I can only remember his last name is Harans. Or he might have a hyphenated last name, I don't remember. But he did the musical epic that, or technically it's just music, but the musical epic, and you know, it's the one about the Odyssey and all that jazz, and it's really, really popular. I have only listened to Warrior of the Mind because I didn't particularly like what he did with Calypso, because it wasn't as reflecting of the actual myth as it should have been. At least in a way in which a lot of fans like Calypso. She's not entirely supposed to be liked, especially in the context of her interaction with Odysseus specifically. Like, you go over read Percy Jackson, read the Heroes of Olympus. She's great in there because she's not this. It's not the Odyssey. And that's like the whole reason her in that series is a good character, is because they gave her a little more depth in that. Whereas in this one, it took away the important information of, yeah, I know we all like the song of like, who's Penelope? She's my wife. Anyways, I have all you could want here, all you can need here. Hey, she's like not taking no for an answer, guys. Which is done correctly. It's more that it's not clarified for the audience, so a lot of people don't understand that that's what's happening in those. Sorry, a firework just went off? Actually, that might have been a transformer exploding. Oh, it's not the one connected to this house. But it really just bothers me that fans of Epic do not understand what Calypso is doing in that song, and it pisses me off. Okay? Anyways, I got so sidetracked with that. Basically, he announced that he's making a new one called Ilium. It's about the Iliad. I'm begging for Achilles and Patroclus song, so I'm on my knees for that one. But I'm very excited. I've read the Odyssey about 3 or 4 times, and I've read the Iliad twice. So, very exciting. Do I have my copy of the Iliad? No, my friend does still. Dang, I was gonna read it again. But anyway, new musical from him. Undoubtedly, some of those songs will end up becoming TikTok audios, as did with Epic. So, you know. Okay, our last thing before we get to the hyperfixation of the week. Capital THE. You know, just all caps the whole thing. The last thing on our list before we start talking about what the pyramid is majorly about, is Zohran Mamdani has won the first round of the New York City Democratic mayoral election. Basically, it's the like pre-thing for getting the official mayor slot for the Democrat Party. And this is huge because he is a lot more socialist. And it's very entertaining because, you know, people have been posting pictures of what Fox News has been saying about him. And it's very entertaining because they're like, he's a dirty socialist. But then the things that they put on the screen are like lower health, like lower, more affordable healthcare. Free bassinets if you are having a child, which is what Ireland does. Ireland gives out a whole baby box that has everything you need for that child's first year of life. And even just a free bassinet is a huge first step, especially since we have a declining birth rate in this country for a lot of reasons. But essentially, every single thing that Fox News put up as to make him sound negative were all really positive things, like affordable healthcare, helping encourage birth rate in the country, free stuff like that, you know? And they also, there's like no scary pictures of this man. So every single picture is of him like the sweetest smile ever. And I'm like, y'all, y'all are failing to make this guy look bad. You can't. So that's a major win for New York, and a lot of people are excited. Okay. For pretty much the rest of this episode, my apologies, but for the rest of this episode, there will be spoilers for the video game Deltarune chapters 3 and 4, because I watched a playthrough. I watched through chapter 2 onward to, you know, through chapter 2 to get a little refresher, and then onward through to the end of chapter 4. Y'all. So spoilers from here on out. Thank you very much. Okay. So first of all, there's so much that happens. It's so cool. I don't think Toby Fox has put out something that's not a banger, honestly. The music is so good. Also, some of the songs, if you look through the Undertale soundtrack and the soundtrack for chapters 3 and 4, you'll notice in Undertale, there's a song that's called It's Raining Somewhere Else. And in Deltarune chapter 4, we get, what is it called? Is it This Is the Place Where It Rains? Hold on. I had it pulled up a second ago. One moment. Take me to my playlist, please. So, in the original Undertale soundtrack, there is It's Raining Somewhere Else. And now we've got, where is it? The Place Where It Rained, which is beautiful, full circle, all that. And then also in Undertale, Undyne's theme is called Spear of Justice. And in for the secret boss fight of Chapter 4 is the Hammer of Justice that has the same motif. Also, fun fact that I realized literally before recording, I was singing the TV Time theme and realized it has the same note progression as Death by Glamour from Undertale, which is really great because in Undertale, Death by Glamour is done by Metaton EX. But previous to that, Metaton does a little TV show bit. And in this one, it's Mr. Antenna doing TV Time. So that's really good, and I like that a lot. It's basically, here's the different version of that, because Undertale and Deltarune are anagrams of each other title-wise. So, I absolutely love that in Deltarune chapters 1 and 2, the fighting music is called Rude Buster, which is also the character Susie's fight move. It's her attack. But in chapters 3 and 4, there's 2 different versions of Rude Buster. There's Void Buster, which kind of sounds watery. The best way to describe that is that it tastes. Hold on now. The best way to describe it is that Ruder Buster is really a really jazzy version of Rude Buster. And then Void Buster kind of sounds a little more watery, kind of. There's also a lot of leitmotifs that go every which way in this one, which is really cool. Also, the plot's really picking up to the point in which they fought something, you know, at the end you fight, well, I did say spoilers, so, they fight a Titan, and they are like, oh, we can't do that, we won't win against that, spoiler alert, you do defeat the Titan, and thus, you know, you've figured out you can beat Titans of Darkness. But here's the thing. It feels like the end of the game. It's the halfway point. Riot thought, hey, there's like 5 or 6 chapters total, right? No. At the end of chapter 4, it says, well done. You've made it to the halfway point. Hey, you just made a sequence that felt like the end of the world and the end of the game, and you're telling me this is halfway through? It's like when a Final Fantasy game gives you Sephiroth as an optional boss. You're like, what do you mean? What do you mean that's not the end? Yeah, it was insane. It was so there. It also went from chapter 3 was about Mr. Antenna and TV Time, and it was a lot of mini games and a lot of stuff like that, and it was bright and flashy and stuff. And then chapter 4 is just dark upon dark upon dark upon dark, and there's a lot of lore bits as well in chapter 4. I don't really watch much game theory anymore. And out of any of the game theory associated channels, the only one I do partake in is game theory. Personally, it's mostly for things like Welcome Home or Poppy Playtime, because I don't do well with horror, and it makes it easier for me to consume. Because I like knowing the story, I don't so much as like jump scares. Also, there is a jump scare in Deltarune. There's actually 2 where a character just comes right up to the screen, you know, and yeah. And both of them got me. Both of those really, really, like, it was like all the way back here. The dude was all the way back here and then just slowly, you know? Sorry for blinding you, by the way. I know I'm reflective. But it comes from all the way back here, and it like kind of slowly comes up to the camera. It still got me. It still got me twice. Both of them did. The first one only got me once, and then the second one did in fact get me twice because the person I was watching played through that section again. Yeah, that was fun. But chapter 4 just really ramps up. There's also major religious overtone in chapter 4 because they go into a portal to the dark world that's inside of the church. They actually go through 2 portals that are inside of the church. Those sections are really cool. And it gives you a little more character building with all of the characters that are normally in your party or have been in your party, really. So it's Chris, the character that you control, Susie, Ralsei, and there is a bunch about Noelle, even though you don't play as her in this section. That reminds me, oh my gosh, this chapter 4 also has a major emphasis on the character you control, Chris, and you, the heart, are 2 separate entities. Because continually, Chris will rip out you, the heart, and trap you inside of a bird cage or a present or something like that. And the real distinction in that, we first saw that at the end of, actually, I think it happens at the end of chapter 1 and the end of chapter 2, where they will rip out their heart to do something and then come back. And the big distinction that really emphasizes that you, the heart, you, the soul, and Chris, the avatar, are two very different entities. Because when Chris rips you out of their body and traps you in something, you can't move and they go out of frame because the camera only follows you. And there's also a lot of weird distinction between you and Chris in various different parts of the story. For example, during the Snowgrave route, or the Weird route. Weird is how people refer to it when they're trying not to convey spoilers, because calling it Snowgrave is really on the nose. But at the end of chapter 2, if you are taking the Snowgrave route, you will no longer be saving Birdley from the Queen. You will instead fight Spamton Neo again, and as Chris is practically defeated, it says Chris called out for help. Chris called out for help. Chris called out for help. And then it says you whispered Noelle's name. Not Chris, you. And there's a lot of distinctions like that. There's also the distinction during Mr. Antenna's VHS presentation, which in the soundtrack is labeled feature presentation. It doesn't say it specifically, it is like a normal TV presentation, but when you put so much emphasis on the difference between saying Chris did this or you did this, the feature presentation saying coming live from your television, from your, you look at it a little more and go, hey, what's that? Hey, what's going on here? There's a lot of good moments like that in this one. There's a huge amount of, there's even a section in which, while you are separated from Chris's body, you're both in a closet space, and you are trying to go through this little pathway in the closet to knock over a guitar and make noise with a guitar so that Susie hears it from outside of the closet. And that is the first time that the player and Chris are actively at odds with one another, because Chris is using a hockey stick to try and prevent you from getting over there. But Susie and Noelle are talking outside of the closet and distracting Chris every once in a while. And when Chris is distracted, that's your window to make progress. It's a lot. It's really, really good, and I really, really like it. But yeah, I'm gonna move on to the pyramid because the pyramid is predominantly characters from Deltarune. So, first up on the pyramid is Mr. Antenna. He's low on the pyramid because he is kind of annoying, but I really love his aesthetic. His whole section is really, really fun. It's got a lot of mini games in it, so it's really fun because it's constantly new. It's new material after new material after new material, just over and over and over again, which is really fun. I also think that my partner should cosplay Mr. Antenna because Mr. Antenna does a lot of little animated dances, and some of them look kind of weird proportion-wise. And my partner has legs where the knees rotate way more than they should. So I think they're the right amount of gangly and weird shaped to cosplay Mr. Antenna. Next up on the pyramid is Lancer. He is a returning character from chapter 2, actually. And I love him. He's a little round boy. He's really silly, and he's becoming a more relevant character because the in-game character Susie is also very attached to specifically Lancer. There's even a little section in which she piggyback rides him while they're in Castletown, carries him on her back. So Lancer's on the pyramid because he deserves to be there. He's a sweet little round boy who's really goofy. Next up on the pyramid is Susie. Susie is definitely my favorite of the main trio, mainly because she's not doing anything outwardly terrible, which is funny because she is an unruly kid. She is what a teacher would call delinquent, but in reality, she's the best of the main three moral-wise. While even though you, the player, are controlling Chris has separate ideas and opinions and decisions from you. Ralsei spends a lot of the time up until the end of chapter 4 hiding stuff from the rest of the group. And then Susie, despite everything and despite being the only despite knowing the last part of the prophecy, which the only other person in the main trio that knows is Ralsei, and Ralsei was trying to hide it from everyone, but then Susie ran ahead and saw what the end of it was and smashed it before you and Chris could see what it was. And despite seeing that, Susie still says, "That's all you're worried about? Nah, we'll change it. It's fine." Despite seeing what, you know, we as the players can only assume to be that, like, someone dies or everyone in the trio dies or something like that, or like maybe you have to kill specifically Chris. There's got to be something. We don't know, but there's very clearly something really bad has to happen in order to win and save both the light and the dark world. And despite that, Susie's like, "We'll be fine. It's fine." Which is just so brave of her. Yeah. I really desperately want to know what that last panel said, but we don't know. So that's why Susie's on the pyramid. The next two on the pyramid are also Deltarune characters, but I put them above Susie only because they're silly, goofy, and I love them. Next up on the pyramid is Gerson. Susie herself would also put Gerson ahead of her in a list. He's the old man in chapter 4, and he really like tests Susie's strength and abilities, and also you, the player's abilities. That's a section in which you play Susie. For that, that's technically a secret boss. Not super secret, but it is really difficult. I'd say almost a Sans level of difficult. It's got similar, you know, the path shows up and then you dodge out of it, and then the path shows up and then you dodge out of it kind of situation. It's got visual AoEs on it. visual areas of effect. But also, he's just this wacky old man who, for some reason, he exists in the Dark World, even though the Dark World cannot revive a Lightner who has passed. And Gerson, in the real world, is not alive. So he's somehow alive, and it's not really clear why Gerson is there, because he's not alive. But it's likely this little globe thing that has ashes and the hammer in it. It's likely that hammer that makes Gerson appear in the Dark World. At least that's what I think. It's kind of hard to tell. Next up on the pyramid is Jackenstein. He's really silly. He talks like his syntax is really weird. It kind of makes me think that he sounds almost like Dracula-esque. But he's this really, really big guy who wears a pumpkin on his head, thus the name Jackenstein. But you do get to see his actual head, and it's this tiny little cat head. But I love him because he's just this big guy who's like, no, I'm scary, and he's really silly, and his boss fight is really weird. That's one of the ones that jump scares, actually. But it's a really good, I just really like the character design. Also, his theme, which is Somewhere Dark? His battle song is really, really good, and it's very Halloween themed because he is, of course, a dude with a pumpkin on his head, and his name is Jackenstein. But it's really good. His entire fight is really nice as well. Where is it? There's Vapor Buster. Oh, it's A Dark Zone, all caps. That song is really good, really whimsical and fun. Also, Jackenstein and a lot of other characters help you reach the final area just as like a cutscene. And it's really good because he's not even around for that long, but he makes a really big impact, which is nice. Those are our Deltarune characters on the pyramid. Our final pyramid slot actually goes to Zohran Mamdani, because he is a shining beacon of hope, not just for the city of New York, but honestly for America as a whole, because if we can get someone who can save New York, basically, then there is a chance that the rest of the country can follow suit. So it's a big, big push for hope. And that's why he's on the pyramid. Also, he's very active in just making sure he markets to all applicable voter groups. He also, you know, all politicians really should make a push to just talk to people on the street, because those people on the street are voters, majority of the time. So, he just ran a really good campaign, and he is, I believe he's 33, which, by the way, someone on Twitter was like, he's so young, he's 33. Yeah, in 2 years, he's allowed to run for president. Think again? That's not that young, buddy. That's a full adult. What do you mean? Can you run a kid? Hey. Anyway. But anyways, Zohran Mamdani is on the pyramid because thank you for giving the rest of the United States some hope about what can be done if we all unite on a front, really. And that's our pyramid for this week. Thank you all so much for watching. We ran a little longer this week as well, but this time it was because I was really fixated on Deltarune. But excuse me. Thank you all so much for watching. Hopefully, I will start getting on that loop of the different schedule so that Why can't I remember the words? Hopefully I'll be getting on the altered filming schedule, same upload schedule, but theater is nearing its production time, so my schedule is gonna get a bit wonk. Regardless, I'll see you next week, same time, same place. Maybe the Deltarune fixation will be gone. Maybe. I may be back with a theory. Maybe. But regardless, thank you all again so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye, y'all.